Hey, what's going on guys, Xrathis here and welcome back to another up-to-date 9.0.5 Warlock PvP guide. Now today I'm covering the last spec that I haven't covered already, which is in fact Destruction, and I've already covered Affliction and Demonology, so if you want to check out those guides then obviously go and do so. But I'm happy, man, and we're just going to jump straight into it really. I have a lot to cover and it's going to be like a similar type of style when compared to the other ones I've already done. So I just want to give you guys a little bit of like backstory in a sense to who I am and you know, just basically what I do. So basically, I'm Xrathis, I do videos on YouTube. I've been playing World of Warcraft since BC, and I've mained a Warlock ever since then. So I kind of know, you know, how Warlocks work in a sense, and, you know, just hopefully I can give you the best guide possible when it comes to Destruction Warlocks in PvP. Now, I just want to clarify though, I haven't really played too much Arena or RBGs or anything in Shadowlands. I'm currently sat at 1.5k rating. It's literally nothing. I've done like 0 arenas so far, but don't let that deter you though. I do have knowledge when it comes to Warlocks and everything, so obviously stay tuned for this guide. So we're just going to jump straight into it, starting off with the talents. Now I have a lot to cover as mentioned, so we're literally just going to try and go through this as fast as possible, but in a lot of detail. So starting off at the level 15 talents, you have a choice of Flashover, Eradication, and Soulfire. Here I always pick Flashover just because it allows your Conflagrate to deal a load more damage, and it also grants an additional charge of Backdraft. If you don't know what Backdraft is, I'll show you here. So Backdraft, Conflagrate reduces the cast time of your next Incinerate or Curse Bolt by 30%, and you can have a maximum of up to 4 charges. So it's actually really good. It just allows you to get your main abilities out a lot faster. I say main mainly because, you know, you use your Incinerate to, you know, try and get up your your soul shards, and then you use your Curse Bolt to obviously try and damage the enemy with that big burst. So that's why I like going Flashover, just so you can get your Curse Bolts out a little bit quicker, or you can obviously with the Backdraft, and then it just allows your Conflagrate to deal more damage too. Eradication, some people might like playing Eradication just for extra Curse Bolt damage, but I still think Flashover is better because I'd rather, you know, since I like stacking Haste, talk about that later in the stat priority and everything, but I like Haste just so I can get my abilities off a lot quicker. So Flashover obviously helps with that, and it also provides more damage with your Conflagrate, and that works hand in hand if you use the Cinders of Azir. I don't know how you say that, but it basically gives you another additional Conflagrate, and also its recharge times reduced by 3 seconds. So it works hand in hand with that legendary, but I'll talk about all that later. We're just going to cover the talents for now, and then we'll work our way onto that. So some could argue Eradication's okay, but I just don't think it's worth. Sure, it pairs nicely with Focus Chaos because it increases your Chaos Bolt damage. They both work hand in hand. But I still think, you know, just having an extra charge of Backdraft is really nice too. And then Soulfire, I never play this at all. So level 25 talents, we have Reverse Entropy, Internal Combustion, and Shadowburn. I never play Shadowburn at all, or Internal Combustion for that matter. I always just stick to Reverse Entropy, just because, as mentioned, I really do like Haste. So just being able to have 15% haste for 8 seconds, just that random amount of haste you'll be able to get, is really nice. So every time, you know, you use your spells, you just have that random chance to get 15% haste. So it's really nice, and it helps you know, just get your Curse Bolts off a lot quicker and abilities in general. So that's why I like that. Internal Combustion, like the concept sounded okay. Curse Bolt consumes up to 5 seconds of Immolate's damage over time, and also instantly deals that much damage to the target. So it sounds pretty cool. I could see maybe it being okay, but I just think the haste is too strong right now to, you know, not pick really. So you have to really go it, in my opinion. I mean, you don't have to, but I think it's just better to pick that. Level 30 talents, I always pick Demon Skin just so your Soul Leech absorption rate is higher. You just get a bigger shield and you're able to be even more tanky, which is really nice. Burning Rush, just gives you a like speed increase, really, movement speed increase, so it's kind of used for PvE. And then Dark Pact, I just don't think the shield is strong enough right now, so that's why I never play it. Like, sometimes you could argue, you know, if you're against like Rogue Mage or something, and they open on you, sure, it's going to help you survive that opener, but other than that, really, I just don't see it being good, because Demon Skin's just a better shield in my opinion, because you're always getting a big shield off, so kind of works hand in hand. You have level 35 talents here. You got Inferno, you got Fire and Brimstone, and then Cataclysm. I like playing Cataclysm because you can do a lot of cool things with it, and it allows you to put your Immolate on all the targets that are affected by your Cataclysm, so that works really, really nice. And obviously, if you play with the Conduit, where is it? This one, Curse Bolt and Incinerate deal 5.6% increased damage to targets affected by Immolate. Just works hand in hand as well, because you always get big damage off, because if you Cataclysm and get that on loads of targets, then at least you're going to be able to do more damage with your Curse Bolt and Incinerate. The only reason why it says 5.6% increased damage here is because my Conduit's item level is 200, so obviously the higher item level, the better. So I like Cataclysm, you know, say a healer or somebody's behind a pillar, you can kind of bait them out. You can use your Rain of Fire on one side, Cataclysm the other, force the healer to go into the Rain of Fire, or the opposite way. So it actually works hand in hand. It just allows you to get the enemy team running away from you, and you can try and push them into like a tight corner, or just try and, you know, put them in a sticky situation, which is kind of cool. Fire and Brimstone, I never used this. I was kind of thinking maybe there might be a chance you could use this, but I just think Cataclysm's just the strongest out of the 35 talents in a sense. And then you have Inferno as well, which I never use, so never go with that. Level 40 talents, you have Dark Fury, Mortal Coil, and Howl of Terror. Now, here, it all depends what you want to go. Healing is really nice, so as the other specs, so Affliction and Demo, I always say it all depends, you know. Go Mortal Coil if you want the healing, and go Howl of Terror if you just want to mass AoE fear some people. So, you know, you're doing RBGs, you're doing 3s, Howl of Terror might help you just get instant CC off on multiple targets really quick, which is nice. But at the same time, you know, it can deal with other abilities, so you've got to watch out for that. You're playing with like a warrior or something, and then their fear is going to deal with yours, so it's going to be shorter. So there's kind of things you want to be thinking about. Whereas with Mortal Coil, I kind of always play it with Destro. So with the other specs, I kind of swap them out now and again. But with Destruction, you have Havoc, which basically lets you duplicate a spell onto another enemy, so onto an additional target, which is kind of cool. And so if I read it for you, just so you guys know what Havoc does. Marks a target with Havoc for 12 seconds, causing your single target spells to also strike the Havoc victim for 60% of normal initial damage. So basically it allows your single target abilities to strike to a different target, so 2 targets at once, and it deals 60% of its damage. So it's really, really good. The reason why I like Mortal Coil is because, you know, you can actually incapacitate 2 people and put Mortal Coil on actually 2 people, so you get a lot of healing back, and it's on a 45-second cooldown as well, so you can do that quite often. So it just allows you to get instant CC off on 2 people, so it's actually not bad. So if you do 3s, Mortal Coil is actually quite strong, because, you know, there's only 3 targets in the, well, on each team. So you're not really losing that much if you don't play Howl of Terror, because Howl of Terror, I guess, is really, really good as well if you go into like a BM Hunter or something, because you can fear the pets instantly, which is nice. But I still think Mortal Coil is like the kind of like the way to go, because just being able to Havoc Mortal Coil is really, really strong, because you get so much healing back, and you can incapacitate 2 targets as well, so it's really good. But maybe you want to be switching these around, but it's completely up to you. I think they're both strong options, but when I play Destro, I prefer using Mortal Coil, just because I like being able to get the healing back from it as well. And then Dark Fury, I never play this at all. Level 45 talents, we have Roaring Blaze, Reign of Chaos, and Grimmer of Sacrifice. I never play Grimmer of Sacrifice at all. As Destro, I like having a pet. I just think, you know, being able to devour magic a enemies' beneficial magic buff, or just buff in general, is really, really strong. So you can just purge that away so they don't have that buff anymore. You know, you purge Dark Soul, you can purge the Fortitude buff from priests. Any buff really that's beneficial to an enemy you can purge, which is really, really good on most buffs. And then so I never play Sacrifice because obviously it gets rid of your pet, and I just think Roaring Blaze is the best one out of the three here. Reign of Chaos, and what this does is if you have your Infernal active, every soul shard you actually spend has a 15% chance to summon an additional Infernal, but it's only up for 8 seconds. I don't like this at all, if I'm completely honest, so I wouldn't play this. But Roaring Blaze is really strong. Conflagrate increases your Immolate, Incinerate, and Conflagrate damage to the target by 25%. So it's really strong because Flashover, Conflagrate deals 25 increased damage, right? And also gives you a charge of Backdraft. Wow, grants an additional charge of Backdraft, sorry. And then Roaring Blaze, Conflagrate increases your Immolate, Incinerate, and Conflagrate's damage. So you're getting a lot of damage output. That's literally 50% increase to your Conflagrate's damage, technically. And then there's a PvP talent called Cremation. Conflagrate deals up to an additional 3% of the target's maximum health in fire damage if the target is affected by your Immolate. So that's, you know, an additional 3% of the target's maximum health. So you're looking at like a 53% increase in your Conflagrate damage, which is actually insane. And then obviously you play Cinders of the Azir Akir, or however you pronounce it, you get another charge of Conflagrate, and its cooldown's reduced. So it's really, really strong for Conflagrate damage, so that's why I'd pick Roaring Blaze. Level 50 talents, you have Soul Conduit, Channel Demon Fire, and Dark Soul Instability. Now, all depends here, I guess, in a sense, because Dark Soul is probably the strongest out of the three here. I play it all the time. However, your Dark Soul can be purged, so you play against wizard teams or something, you know, into like Shaman, Mage, or Priest. They can, in fact, steal your buff, so you won't benefit from having Dark Soul. So say if I pop Dark Soul, I'm about to burst the enemy, you know, a Mage can just spell steal it, or a Shaman can purge it off me. Now I'm not going to have that beneficial buff up for my burst. So maybe if you go into teams like that, you might want to go Channel Demon Fire or something like that. Or maybe you can experiment with Soul Conduit, but I'm yet to like really hone in on Destruction and play it a lot, because obviously I play Affliction quite a lot and Demonology as well. Destruction, I can't recall the last time I played it like a lot in Shadowlands or anything like that, or even if I've touched it that much, to be fair, if I'm completely honest. But hey ho, I still think this guy's going to be useful to a lot of players, because, you know, even if I haven't played it too much in Shadowlands, I still know how the spec works, and I still know what each individual spell does and everything, and I've done a lot of research when it comes to trying to figure out what the best options are for you guys to obviously choose when it comes to PvP and everything. So hopefully enjoying it so far. However, I do think Dark Soul's the best option, so you can play this into like warrior teams if they don't have any purge or anything like that, you know, double melee. But when it comes to purge teams, maybe you want to start switching to Channel Demon Fire or Soul Conduit. I think Channel Demon Fire might be a better option over Soul Conduit, because every with Soul Conduit, every soul shard you spend has a 15% chance to be refunded, which is quite good. So you can get more Chaos Bolts off potentially, but it's only a 15% chance, which is quite low. Whereas with Channel Demon Fire, I know it's a channel, so you can get kicked, which is a downside, but it launches 15 bolts of Foulfire over 2.4 seconds, it says here, at random targets affected by your Immolate within 40 yards. Each bolt deals 355 fire damage to the targets and 141 fire damage to nearby enemies. So, to be fair, if you Cataclysm in, you use this ability in like a Hunter's Pet or something, right? That pet's going to get demolished potentially, and then you can stop them from reviving the pet, especially a BM Hunter, and they're not going to have a fun time. Same with like Mage pets or Warlock pets, just in general. So you want to be experimenting here. Like, the best option is definitely Dark Soul, but you want to swap out Dark Soul if you're against people who can purge, or you can keep it, but you just got to be wary and try and line up your burst a little bit better, because obviously you can use it Infernal to stun them, Dark Soul, get a care spell off, but they're still probably going to purge you. But with Destro, the one thing is, I know I'm talking about this a lot, right, but it's kind of important, because with Destro, you have a lot of burst, so you can literally KO someone within like 2 care spells or so. So the enemy's going to know that, so if they can't stop your care spells, they're going to be running. So they're going to try and line your care spells instead. And you can kind of put pressure on them, so they're not going to come out and spell steal you. But it all depends, you know, what composition you're facing, right? Each team's different. So, like I said earlier, if you want to play Dark Soul, then awesome. It's definitely the best choice here. But at the same time, you got to be wary into teams that have Purge, because they can just steal this buff, or they can take it off. So be careful there. But otherwise, just experiment. Haven't really played either of these much, to be fair, because I always play Dark Soul, but yeah, again, it's good to experiment. But moving on to PvP talents, guys, here are my main 3 that I always use. As I recall though, Focus Chaos is getting taken out in 9.1, so you're not going to be able to use it anymore. I'm pretty sure that that's what they're going to do with this, but I still think it's really good for now in 9.0.5. What this PvP talent does, care spell damage is increased by 40%. So it's insane. You just get so much burst. However, you can't use Havoc and care spell together. So if you put Havoc on a target, you can't put your care spell on that target. So basically, it's kind of hard to explain. I'm not doing a good job here. So basically, if you have Havoc up, your care spell will no longer strike an additional target, if that makes sense. So it in that regard, it kind of sucks, because you can't do AoE, so you can't hit 2 people at once with 1 care spell. But at the same time, it doesn't matter in a sense, because your care spell's damage is increased by 40%, which is insane. So I really like playing care spell. I think single target wise, it is very, very strong, and you should definitely be playing this at all times. So it's really, really good. And then you have Nether Ward. I play this into people that I want to like reflect certain spells. So say if I am in an RBG, for example, right, and there's like a mage on me, this would be really useful, even though my mage probably wasn't the best example, because they could spell steal that, but it allowed me to reflect stuff like Polymorph, Care Spell if I'm against Warlocks, just any like magical harmful ability that's casted on you, or going to be cast on you, right, you can reflect it back at the original target. So it's really good. I really like using this. Like I said, against mages it works out, because if they use Polymorph on you, wait until their Polymorph is just about to land, then you use Reflect and it Polymorph them. They can spell steal Nether Ward, it can be Purge and everything like that, as I recall, so you got to be careful of that. But it is really, really good into Wizard teams, so I definitely recommend playing that if you want to reflect certain abilities. Demon Armor is strong, especially into melee compositions. So, you know, like Windwalker DK, you got Warrior, Windwalker, stuff like that. It's going to help out a ton. It just gives you extra survivability. So basically, you put this on and it protects you, increases your maximum health by 5%, increases your armor by 160%. So it just allows you to be a little bit more tanky. And in my opinion, it works out a lot. Like it's really beneficial. When it comes to Wizard teams, you can argue you don't want to be playing Demon Armor, because, you know, you could swap it out for something like Foul Fisher, which I'll talk about later. But just in general, it's really strong into melee teams, but you can swap it out when you're against like Wizards, because you can then swap it out for like a better PvP talent that's going to help you in the matchup. So for example, Foul Fisher is another one I like playing. Carespell creates a 5-yard wide eruption of foul fire under the target, reducing their movement speed by 50%, and reduces all healing received by 25% on all enemies within the fissure. Lasts 6 seconds. So it is really, really nice. If you get one Carespell off, it basically slows the target if they're in the fissure, and then they take 25% less healing for... Well, they get 25% less healing for 6 seconds. So it's really, really strong. I like using this into certain teams. So like, for example, if I'm against Mage, Warlock or something, if I ever go against that matchup, I would probably switch out Demon Armor for Foulfisher and run Focus, Chaos, Nether Ward and Foulfisher, just because it is really good. On big maps, you may not want to play it as much. I could be wrong about that, but obviously smaller maps are going to work out better for you because the enemy team is more likely to be stacked or near one another. So Foulfishers, you're going to get more value out of using it because the enemies are close and they're huddled up. Whereas if it's a big map, then they can get away quite fast. You know, if you use this on a mage, for example, you care spell them, they can literally just blink or shimmer away. So there's definitely certain matchups you want to be using it, but overall it's a really, really strong option. So I definitely consider using that. Cremation. Now, I haven't really, seen too much of Cremation in Shadowlands or just in general. In BFA, I'm pretty sure you could use this quite a bit because you could get so much conflagrate damage. So if you go like conflagrate build, you go flash over to increase your conflagrate damage, you go roaring blaze to increase your conflagrate damage, and now obviously in Shadowlands you got this legendary, you can play that. And then obviously if you play Cremation 2, your conflagrate is just going to deal so much damage. So I actually think it has potential in Shadowlands. There might be situations where you want to use it. Say you're against Rogue Mage, for example, and you're not going to get too many care spells actually out because, a rogue's going to be on you. Say there's a sub-rogue, right? You're just going to get CC'd after CC'd after goddamn CC'd, and you're not going to have fun trying to get your care spells off. So if you're somebody who can't really benefit from getting loads of care spells off, then you can actually try out Cremation, because it's going to provide you with really, really strong instant damage rather than you having to get a big care spell off. So your care spell's going to suffer in terms of damage, but your conflagrate's going to be boosted in terms of damage. So it actually is quite strong. So you may want to consider using that into certain teams where you're just going to get locked out all the time or CC'd. So you can definitely play around with this one in my opinion, but some people might not prefer it because they want the big care spell damage and the potential to one-shot people, even if it's, during fatigue, dampening, later on in the arena. So it's completely up to you, but it's one I would maybe consider choosing if you can't really get your care spells off. Bane of Havoc, I don't really like playing that or anything like that. Amplify Curse, maybe there's certain scenarios where you want to play this. I said in like my Affliction Warlock guide and my Demonology Warlock guide that this is actually a strong choice, but obviously as Destruction, Focus Chaos is really nice for the extra care spell damage. I usually play that all the time. Like I said though, certain compositions I'll probably swap it out for Cremation or Foulfisher or something like that, but Amplify Curse is good. So basically every time you use Amplify Curse, it increases either your Curse of Exhaustion, Curse of Tongues, or Curse of Weakness. So if you put one of those on a target, for example, then it's basically going to give you a better buff for that ability. So basically, I'll read it for you, right? Your next Curse of Exhaustion, Curse of Tongues, or Curse of Weakness is amplified. Curse of Exhaustion actually reduces the target's movement speed by an additional 20%. So right now, Curse of Exhaustions reduces target's movement speed by 50%. So you basically just add 20% onto that, which is 70. Then Curse of Tongues increases casting time by an additional 30%. And right now, that's 30% as well. So that's increased to 60%. And then Curse of Weakness is really simple. The enemy is unable to critically strike. And I'm pretty sure this actually works on ranged as well, so it actually works on stuff like mages, so you can negate their burst, which is really good, so they just can't crit during their burst phase. So it's really, really strong, but it's definitely strong into melee teams as well, because say if a warrior pops his burst, he goes like Avatar and everything, he just can't critically strike you during his burst, and I think that's actually quite strong. But as a Destroyer, you could use Gateway Mastery for the extra longer gateway, which is cool too. Essentially, it's a longer gateway, reduces your gateway cast time, and also allows you to use the gateway quicker by 15 seconds. So really, really nice. But I think so if I have to narrow it down to like top 3, it'd be Focus Chaos, Nether Ward, and Demon Armor. But then if I add 3 more that you might want to consider playing, it'd be Foul Fissure, Cremation, and Amplify Curse. You definitely want to just be swapping up your PvP talents, if I'm completely honest, but there's certain scenarios where some PvP talents work better than others, like I mentioned earlier, so that's definitely something you want to be considering. Now, if I move on to stat priority, gems, and enchants, so what I like doing, everybody's different, right? I like stacking haste, then versatility, then mastery, then crit. So it's kind of the same for all 3 specs. I like stacking haste, verse, mastery, crit. I've seen some videos, like a video in the past, basically saying that versatility should be your main stat to focus on because of your PvP trinkets. So if you have 2 PvP trinkets, then your versatility is increased by 40% when in arenas, battlegrounds, or in war mode. So it's really strong. So the more versatility you have, basically the more you're going to get out of having 2 trinkets, because obviously it's increased by 40%. So it's really, really nice. So you could argue versatility is main stat. Also, it increases your damage done and also reduces your damage taken. So it is very strong. However, the reason to why I like haste is because not only is it going to allow your immolate to tick more, so basically if you have immolate on the target, it's going to burn them more times because, you know, the time taken between the ticks is going to be less, which is cool. And also haste increases your attack speed and your spell casting speed, so just allows you to get more chaos bolts off as well because it reduces the cast time of chaos bolt, which is nice. And if you have backdraft up as well, it's going to make your chaos bolts even quicker. So that's why I like stacking haste. I'm just like a haste player in a sense. I really like it, but in my opinion you probably want to get around like 30% versatility, somewhere around there. I don't know what the actual cap of versatility is, if there is one, but I'd say like the sweet spot is probably like 30% versatility, and then try and like stack the rest in like haste mastery or something like that, because mastery is good. So if I read it here for you, your spells deal X amount of increased damage plus a random amount of increased damage. So that's really strong, right? And then you take X amount of reduced damage plus a random amount of up to X amount reduced damage. The reason why I say X amount, because I have 37% mastery, so mine's going to be different to yours. But just in general, it's quite nice for just getting extra increased damage and also reduced damage. But I think, so it's kind of like versatility in a sense, but I just think versatility is so much stronger. So basically I have 15.30, so 30%, 15.30% versatility right now. So my damage and healing done is increased by 15.30%, and my damage taken is reduced by 7.65%. So in my personal opinion, I think versatility is very strong, especially with this current meta, with, you know, people getting blown up like really, really quickly and everything during like bursts. So versatility is very strong to have, but in my personal opinion, I like going haste, versatility, mastery, and then crit. So it's all up to you, but that's what I like doing. And then obviously for enchants, I have enchants and gems, I have all haste. So on my rings, I have 16 haste here. And then also for my gems, I have 16 haste. And then for my weapon, I have Celestial Guidance, which increases your primary stat by 5%. You know, every time you use an ability, it has a chance to increase your primary stat by 5%, which is nice. So obviously my intellect's going to be increased, which is very, very good. On my chest, I have primary stats by 30, which again helps with extra damage and everything. And then on the cloak, I have 30 stamina just to be a little bit more tanky. But some people like going, where is it? Some people like going this one, Fortify Speed. Permanently enchants a cloak to increase your stamina by 20 and your speed by 30. Works really nicely with Night Fae because you can use Soul Shape to obviously get away. If you play, where is it? This Finesse Conduit, then obviously every time you use your Demonic Circle, your Teleport, then increases your movement speed by X amount depending on what item level conduit you have. Mine's 42% for 5 seconds, so it just works hand in hand in a sense because you get extra speed constantly. So it is quite nice. So depends what you want to go. At the moment, I just have the 30 stamina on my cape just because, really, just because it's what I had and everything. But I kind of like being extra tanky as well. So all depends what you like to go. Now, moving on, I'm going to start talking about races. Now, races are important when it comes to like high rated PvP and everything. You know, I think my highest rating I've been is like 2.2k, well, nearly 2.2k, sorry, in 2s and 3s. So obviously it's not high, it's nowhere near Gladiator or anything. Well, it's kind of near Gladiator, but you know, nowhere near in a sense too, right? You got to push extra rating for that. But just in general, what I mean is if you want to be focusing on getting to that you know, high like rank 1 Gladiator range, then you might want to consider choosing a race that suits that. Obviously you don't need to, right? You can basically, in my opinion, I could be wrong about this, but from what I'm aware, you can play most races and still get to rank 1. It just depends on like your composition and your gear and also the skill of the player as well. So there's a lot of factors that obviously come into it, right? But at the same time, you know, picking a race that you think you would enjoy playing and you think they would help is obviously going to help you in the long run too, right? The main reason why I picked Gnome is because, one, when I started World of Warcraft, I just thought it was a race for me. They're small, they're cool, you know, and then also I have bonus from my Escape Artist. You know, what Escape Artist does is it's on a minute cooldown, allows me to get out of any immobilization or movement impairing effect, which is good. So if a mage, you know, uses Frost Nova on me, I can get out of that. If I'm like, you know, slowed or anything, I can use my Escape Artist to get out of that too. It just helps in certain situations. But if I break down Alliance first, and I will cover my three, like top 3 races, and then I include a bonus race, and then I'll do the same for Horde. So it's going to be in no particular order. So I think humans are very strong right now. They have Will to Survive, which is their racial. It's on a 3-minute cooldown, as I'm aware, and it just allows you to get out of any stun effect. So it's really cool. You're like some people, they play Brooch, which is a trinket. They play Brooch to reduce your incoming CC, and then they obviously have Will to Survive that allows you to get out of any stun effects. So if you're against like Rogue Mage, for example, that obviously it'd be very nice to be a human because you can get out of like Kidney Shot, and then if you use Brooch, you have incoming CC like reduced on you, which is good too, so you won't be sat in longer CC. But I know some people do like playing Medallion when they're human too, just so they can control when they can get out of certain abilities, so certain CC effects on them. So it all depends on what you want to do, but human is very, very strong right now, so that's why I think human is a really good race to pick right now. And then Gnome, as mentioned earlier, just being able to use Escape Artist alone is really strong. Obviously each race is situational, right? Some races are going to help you than others, when compared to others in certain compositions, you know. For example, if I'm against I don't know, a warrior or a monk or something, maybe, you know, Escape Artist will work quite good, because if they slow me, I can use my Escape Artist to get away. If I'm against a mage, I can get out of their obviously Ice Nova. There's just situations where certain races are going to work better than others, really, and that's all I have to say about Gnomes right now. So they're really good. Escape Artist is nice, and just in general, there's certain situations where it come in handy. And then Dwarf. Dwarf has Stone Form, which increases your HP. I think it's by 10%. Could be wrong about that. It could be 5, but I'm pretty sure it's 10. And also gets rid of like any curse effect or bleed effect on you. So it's really nice, provides you with an extra layer of defensive like utility in a sense. Just allows you to be a little bit more tanky and allows you to survive a little bit longer. You know, you can pre-Stone Form like a rogue's Kidney Shot. So your HP is going to be increased by 10%. So obviously help out a ton. So that's why I really like going, that's why I think Dwarf would be ideal for certain scenarios, so it's just going to allow you to survive a little bit longer. And then an honorable mention would be Void Elf. Now, I've used these same races for all 3 specs, but there's a reason why, because all of them are just kind of, I don't want to say universal in regards to being good for Warlock, but at the same time, they kind of do work with each spec because they're just popular races on the Horde side and the Alliance side, and their, racials just help out a ton when it comes to PvP. So the only reason why I've included like the same races is because I looked up gone on character creation screen, looked up some guides and stuff, just in general, done some research on what good races are, and I thought, okay, this racial might be better than this one here, or this one's going to help you in this certain scenario. Like, I've tried to figure out, why each race is good, and then obviously that's why I've included each one here. So Void Elf, the main reason why I give it an honorable mention is because they have a teleport. Their teleport is actually quite useful, especially if you're not Night Fae. So Night Fae, you have Soul Shape, so you can teleport around really quickly. So it's just really, really nice for setting up CC, because you can teleport into Havoc, Coil, into like a Fear or an Infernal Stun, into like a Cataclysm, and then you could start laying out the Chaos Bolts or something like that. Or you can use it to be aggressive or defensive, because you can just Soul Shape away and get away from everybody, and then you can use your Demonic Circle or use your Gateway, or depending on what you want to do. So it's really nice to be a Void Elf if you don't have Soul Shape or just not that much mobility in a sense. You could argue, having Soul Shape and being a Void Elf is really strong, which is actually true, because you have more mobility to work with, and just in general it's going to help you out really, really nicely. However, the reason why I said Void Elf is because, like I said earlier, you can use your teleport, you can basically blink in a sense, set up CC, get the burst off, or you can use it to kite away. It's completely up to you, and it's really nice. They also have another racial, kind of like a trait, where if you're being attacked, then the delay between spells, there's no delay between spells anymore, so your spells won't be affected when being struck and everything like that, which is really, really cool. So Void Elf is actually quite strong too. Hopefully that made sense to everybody. I kind of butchered talking about Void Elf there, but I think you get the sense. Basically, you can use a teleport, which is good for being defensive and aggressive, so on the offensive, and you also have another racial in a sense, like a trait that just allows you to get your spells off without any delay. Then on Horde side, you have Orc, obviously, really, really strong right now, because they have Blood Fury, increases your spell power, allows you to get more burst out, and it's just really, really strong. It'll work nicely with your Dark Soul, if your Dark Soul doesn't get purged, that is. And just in general, it's going to allow your Chaos Bolts to hit for a lot more. They also have a CC reduction effect, so incoming CC on you is going to be reduced. You could play Brooch potentially as an Orc too, so even more CC reduction, but you probably just want to go with Medallion because it's safer, right? Because at least humans have Will to Survive, so you can actually get out of stuns when you want, whereas Orc doesn't really have that. They just kind of have a built-in Brooch in a sense, so they just have built-in CC reduction, which is kind of good, especially on the Horde side. It's very, very strong. Trolls, they have Berserking Racial. Berserking Racial is really good because it gives you haste. Haste, like I said, is the main stat you want to be going, or at least for me. I think haste is very, very strong, like I mentioned earlier, going to allow you to get your spells off a lot quicker and get your burst out, so that's why I like haste. Going to allow your immolate to tick for a lot quicker, so really, really good. My character's going AFK here, so we're going to step forward, no sitting down on the job, sir. So I think that's really, really strong. And then Undead, they have Will of Forsaken, pretty sure that's what it's called. They have Will of Forsaken, allowing you to get out of charm effects and fear effects and everything like that. So it's really nice. It's kind of similar to humans in a sense. So humans can get out of stuns, whereas undeads can get out of charms and fear effects every 3 minutes, I think it is. So that's another option which could help in certain scenarios, right? So if you're a undead warlock and you're going against another warlock or something, you're going to be able to get out of fears, or like you're going to get to priests and stuff like that. So definitely works out. And then honorable mention, I said this in my other guide as well, would in fact be Goblin. Now obviously the other three are very good. Honorable mention is kind of like a, I think you could play it. It's going to be good if you do play it. But Void Elf is very strong, don't get me wrong. So it kind of should just be top 4 instead of top 3, but I wanted to include them in the honorable mention. But yeah, Goblins on Horde side, very good. You can use their rocket boots to try and get CC, which is good. So you can either, use your rocket boots to get away from a melee or away from a ranged, just increasing that gap between you and the enemy player, so you can try and kite and survive a little bit more. Or you can use it offensively and actually rocket jump in and try and get like double coil or an infernal stun or a fear. But all depends how you want to use it. I also think goblins have increased haste too, so it actually works quite good. But obviously trolls have berserking, which allows you to control the haste, whereas I think goblins just in general have a passive increased haste, which is quite strong, so it's not too bad. So top 3 and an honorable mention for Alliance would be Human, Gnome and Dwarf, and then Void Elf as an honorable mention. In no particular order though. Then Horde would be Orc, Troll, Undead, and then honorable mention would in fact be Goblin. So I really hope that cleared the races and everything like that up. Hopefully I didn't butcher it too much, so definitely going alright so far. Hopefully you're enjoying it. I'm going to talk about Covenants now, but I'm going to go to my Covenant Sanctum, just so I can show you my conduits and everything like that when we get to that. Just works out a little bit easier. So I'm going to go to my Covenant Sanctum now, and I'll see you very, very soon. Alright guys, I'm in my Covenant Sanctum right now, and I want to talk to you about Covenants. So I understand that this guide has been going for a while, so I'll try and speed run through everything with as much detail as possible. So right now, there are 4 Covenants that you can choose from. You have Necrolord, Night Fae, Kyrian, and Venthyr. In my opinion, I think they're kind of all situational, but the one you probably want to be focusing on is probably Night Fae. Night Fae is very strong right now. However, if you look on like the arena ladders and everything like that, you will see some Destro locks, are in fact like Kyrian and Necrolord and stuff. So to be fair, most of them work because they're all beneficial in certain scenarios and stuff. Necrolord's really tanky, so they're quite strong at survivability. You have Night Fae, which is good because you can be really aggressive with Soul Shape. You can also be really defensive with Soul Shape. And just in general, Soul Rot just provides you with good healing. And the Soulbinds that some of the Covenants have are really good too, along with their traits. I'll talk about that in a second. But just in general, I think the one you want to be focusing on is Night Fae or probably Kyrian or something in that regard. But I'll talk about why certain Covenants are really good, because don't get me wrong, I'm Necrolord, but I play Affliction and Demonology a lot too. But I also play Destruction, so I kind of like playing all 3 specs. So I prefer Necrolord. The only reason why I chose this at the beginning of Shadowlands is because of the lore and the cosmetics, and just in general I felt like a connection to that Covenant because I'm a Warlock, so it's kind of like the theme of death and everything, so it kind of made sense. But just in general, I don't regret it at all because, Fleshcraft is very, very strong, provides you with a absorption shield, which is good, and you get Decimating Bolt, which sure doesn't hit for the hardest, but when the target's low, it actually can deal a significant amount of damage, and just in general, those abilities are good. But if I move on to Soulbinds real quick, so I have the Soulbind calculator open on my other monitor. I also have the Warlock Covenant abilities open too, just so I can give you as much detail as possible, because I'm not going to remember, everything about every Covenant, because obviously I play Necrolords, so I remember quite a bit about Necrolords, but for the other Covenants, I couldn't, think of everything off the top of my head. So in regards to kind of like quote-unquote best Soulbinds you want to be going, I'll cover try and cover them all if possible, but in my opinion, in regards to Covenants, you probably, as the Destruction Warlock, want to be either going Night Fae or probably Kyrian, but Necrolord is quite decent too, especially if you want the extra survivability. Not sure about Venthyr. I haven't really seen too many Venthyr Warlocks, and just in general I haven't really seen too much in regards to Venthyr, so probably Night Phase your best option to choose from, but I'll explain why others may be good too. So right now, Naya is the first Soulbind that you actually get, and I'm pretty sure she's the strongest out of the 3 for a Destruction Warlock. She offers a spell called Grove Invigoration. Basically, healing or dealing damage has a chance to grant you a stack of redirected anima. Redirected anima increases your maximum health by 1% and your mastery by 25 for 30 seconds, and stacks do in fact overlap. And also, if you use the Soul Rot ability, which allows you to use your drain life on multiple targets around you, and it acts as a dot as well, I'm pretty sure, then it instantly grants you 8 stacks of redirected anima. So if you use this before you burst, right, you're going to get a load of mastery, and your HP is also going to increase because you instantly get 8 stacks of redirected anima after using your Soul Rot. So it's actually really, really good. And then one of her traits that she has, like her last trait in the middle, it's called Naya's Tools, and it's poison. So you interrupt. So every time you interrupt an enemy, apply a Naya's paralytic. I can't say that word, man. Paralytic poison onto the target, dealing attack power and versatility, nature damage over 30 seconds. Targets with Naya's paralytic poison. Sorry, I'm butchering this. Takes an additional X amount, of attack power and versatility, nature damage if interrupted once more. So basically, if you interrupt the enemy, it kind of puts a poison on them and it deals a certain amount of damage. I'll put something on the screen so you understand it a little bit more. But just in general, I think it's quite strong. And then obviously she has other traits too, like Naya's Tools and its burrs. So basically, your damaging attacks and spells have a chance to toss Naya's spiked burrs onto your target. The burrs latch onto the first enemy to cross them, reducing their movement speed and deal nature damage and so on. So she also has Naya's Tools herbs. Your healing spells and abilities have a chance to apply Naya's invigorating herbs, increasing the target's haste by 5% for 10 seconds. Proc chance is 30% on 10-second cooldown, it says here in brackets. So I'm pretty sure certain guides and stuff, or just in general, people recommend you go Naya's Tools Poison. So every time you interrupt an enemy, it applies a poison on them, just so you can obviously deal more damage. And obviously the more you use an interrupt on that target, the more damage they're going to take in a sense. So I think that's actually pretty strong. But just in general, the Grove Invigoration for the redirected anima is very strong, so you can get a load of mastery for your burst. So definitely works out. And obviously with mastery, right, it kind of acts like the same as versatility, so you also take reduced damage as well. So not only is it good for burst, it's just good in general for survivability. And then if I go onto Kyrian, Pelagos is the best here, I'm pretty sure, because you get combat meditation. Scoring Tithe increases your mastery by 350 for 10 seconds, and occasionally expels sorrowful memories. Walking through sorrowful memories extends this effect by 3 seconds, and combat meditation may only occur every once per minute. So that's really strong, and obviously you have access to your Steward and your Scurrying Tithe ability, which deals arcane damage instantly and over 8 seconds. So I'll put obviously something on screen to showcase this too. And it also says here, if the target dies while you have this up, then you instantly generate 5 soul shards. If they survive, Scurrying Tide's cooldown is refreshed. But obviously that doesn't matter too much in PvP unless you use it on a pet, for example, and kill it, I'm pretty sure. But the last trait you get for Pelagos is Let Go of the Past. Using a spell or ability reduces your magic damage taken by 1% for 6 seconds. Using another spell or ability increases this amount by 1% when it is not a repeat of the previous spell or ability, stacking up to 3%. And that's actually really good because you use your Immolate a lot, you use your Conflagrate a lot, you Incinerate. If and your Care Spell and stuff like that, you use Fear, so you're not repeating the same ability too much unless you're bursting, then you're probably repeating the Care Spells. But just in general, it's quite good, but I still think probably Night Phase is going to be the best for destruction, if that makes sense. Because obviously, I play Necrolord. I really like Pay Divisor Monolith because we got this ability here. So basically, if an enemy dies, you can absorb their essence, granting you like a bigger absorption shield. And just in general, you can get a buff from that enemy. Doesn't really work too well in PvP, in my opinion, because you only get the buff if the enemy doesn't release their corpse. So obviously, a different buff per like creature type. So if it's a humanoid, you would get a different buff to say if the enemy you killed was a beast. So don't really matter like that too much, but I like Ooze's Frictionless Coating. When you're reduced by 50% HP, you grant a shield up to 15% of your maximum health for 10 seconds, but this can only occur every 30 seconds. And you also get Ultimate Form. While channeling Fleshcraft, you are immune to crowd control and you regenerate 2% of your health every 1 second. If you finish the full channel, you gain 3 seconds of crowd control immunity, during which you regenerate 2% health every 1 second, which is insane. You basically get crowd control immunity and you regenerate HP, and just in general, you become a very, very tanky. I know I haven't really covered Venthyr in the past, but it's just that I don't see Venthyr being like the best. Sure, you have Door of Shadows and stuff, so the mobility wise is very, very good, but impending catastrophe, can't say that word very well, but just in general, I don't think it's too strong. It's basically like a bolt you fire at the target, and if when it lands, it applies Curse of Weakness or Curse of Tongues onto that target, and it does shadow damage. So it's not that great. Sure, there might be some beneficial Soulbinds, like for example, Nadja the Mistblade. She has a Soulbind at the conduit. No, not conduit. A trait. Sorry, that's the word I'm looking for. It's late at night right now, so kind of all over the place, right? And I'm talking a lot. So she has a trait here. The duration of incoming interrupt, snare, and root effects are reduced by 25%. But I'm a gnome anyway, so I can use Escape Artist for roots. But there might be some that could be really, really beneficial. I'm looking here, and none really stand out too much. But I don't know. All depends what you want to do, I guess. Just in general, the Thrill Seeker from Nadja is good. Like the first trait she actually provides to you, because while in combat, you gain a stack of Thrill Seeker every 2 seconds, or 4 stacks on killing an enemy. At 40 stacks, Thrill Seeker is consumed to grant you Euphoria, increasing your haste by 20% for 10 seconds. Thrill Seeker decays rapidly while you are not in combat, so you have to be in combat all the time, which is okay, obviously, in PvP. But just in general, it takes time to obviously get the stacks up, so that's why I just think, it's all situational at the end of the day, but probably I'm going to say that Night Fae is the best, and Kyrian maybe could be good, and Necrolord if you want like survivability. So all situational, but the main one is probably going to be Night Fae. It's just a well-rounded covenant for all 3 specs, if I'm completely honest. But obviously I've mentioned the covenants you want to be going in all 3 guides so far. So obviously go check my other guides out if you haven't. But now I just want to talk to you guys about my conduits. Sorry that it's been a really long video. I just want to get as much detail in there for you guys, because at the same time, I just want to cover everything so it's clear, what covenants you want to be choosing, what conduits you want to be going, talents and etc. Just so if you guys have any questions, I've basically nearly answered everything. So I'm going to split this up into potency conduits, endurance conduits, and finesse conduits down here. So I'm going to obviously split it up just because it's going to make it a little bit easier when talking about each individual conduit. So the best conduits for potencies and for destruction, in my opinion, is Combusting Engine. This works really well. Conflagrate increases your remaining immolate damage by X amount. Again, my item level is 200 on this conduit, so it's going to be 11.2% until immolate expires or is refreshed. So it's really, really cool. I think it's pretty solid right now, and just in general, it allows your immolate to deal more damage. So very, very strong. And then we also have Ashen Remains. Cast Bolt and Incinerate deal X amount of increased damage to targets afflicted by immolate. So if you have an immolate onto an enemy target, your Cast Bolt and your Incinerate are going to deal more damage. So again, works out really, really nice. Pairs well with Cataclysm, because you can use that on multiple targets. So you'll always have like an immolate effect up. but obviously that means you don't want to be dropping your immolate at all because you will lose out on increased damage. I don't really see any other ones being too strong. You have Duplicus. How do you say that word, man? Duplicitus? I don't know. Havoc. Havoc transfers 14% more damage. Obviously, Conduits item level 200. That's why it's 14%. But I don't know, man. Infernal Brand. Your infernal melee attacks cause its target to take 2.8% increased damage from its immolation, stacking up to 15 times. Maybe that'll work with Reign of Chaos. But man, just in general, I think the best two right now, Combusting Engine and Ashen Remains for the potency conduits. In regards to the endurance conduits though, I always use Resolute Barrier. And basically, you're using Unending Resolve, you know, when you're taking like fatal damage and stuff like that. And I just think Resolute Barrier helps in terms of being like tanky, just because attacks received that deal at least 5% of your HP decrease Unending Resolve's cooldown by 10 seconds, but this can't occur more than every 26 seconds. Again, yours may be different because you may have a higher or item level or lower item level version of this, so mine can't occur every like more than once every 26 seconds, whereas yours might be less or more than that. So I just think it's good. It just basically, to sum it up, short and sweet, allows your Unending Resolve to have a shorter cooldown. And then obviously you can go with Accured Vitality. Drain life heals for 60% or whatever your conduit is of the amount drained over 8 seconds. Works good, I'm guessing, with Night Fae as well, because you have Soul Rot, so you can drain life like, you know, more targets. So you're actually going to get really high value out of using this conduit, because you can drain life multiple targets, therefore you're going to gain more healing back from drain life. And then you have Diabolic Bloodstone. Anyone that consumes your health stone infuses you with X amount of leech for 6 seconds. That could be good in like RBGs, for example, because, you know, you have a lot of people in RBGs, but you also just have to note that you only can use your health stone once until you drop combat. So yeah, again, you could argue that it's not that strong, but there's some situations like in RBGs, like I said, you might want to use this because you gain a ton of leech because you have a lot of people on your team and they're going to be using your health stone quite a bit. But I think, like, especially if you're Night Fae, if you have access to 2 endurance conduits, then you probably want to be going Resolute Barrier and Accured Vitality. Whereas if you're any other Covenant, you definitely want to be going Resolute Barrier. That's your number one go-to. But if you have 1 slot, always go Resolute Barrier. If you have 2, you can then experiment with Accured Vitality or Diabolic Bloodstone. And then in regards to finesse conduits, I always run Shade of Terror, just because I like my fear being able to break less. So your fear effects can withstand, mine's 100%, 25% more damage before breaking. So if you accidentally dot the target you feared, or just in general your pet hits it, or your team hits it by mistake, the enemy can actually take more damage before the fear breaks, which is really nice. So it just allows your CC to not get broken quite easily. Some people may want to use Demonic Momentum just for the extra movement speed. It allows you to kite away a little bit after using Demonic Circle. Just in general allows you to have more mobility, so it's up to you if you want to use that. Maybe some teams you want to be switching Fear off of the Shade of Terror conduit for like Demonic Momentum, or just in general, like just certain situations, like these conduits are going to work out different, like better or worse depending on what team you're facing. Foul Clarity could be like one of your go-to, because instead of your Foul Domination being on 3 minute cooldown, it's reduced. So for me, it's reduced by 60 seconds, so it puts it down to a 2 minute cooldown. It's good because, you know, your pet can die quite fast, so if your pet does die, then at least every 2 minutes you can get an instant summon, rather than having to, you know, actually resummon your pet yourself and just keep getting locked out over and over and over again. But I guess as a Warlock, it's not too bad. You can use your Demonic Circle and then teleport away and summon your pet. But at the same time, you're not going to get your pet off all the time, because if you're against like a monk, they can just put a portal on top of your portal and then TP back, leg sweep you, stop that. They can ring you from afar. Mage could blink in, sheep you, DB sheep, you know, or they can use Ring of Frost. There's so much going on. So Foul Clarity actually might be really good. It's really good for demo as well, because, you know, demo, like with demo, your pet's really, really important because you want your Foul Guard up. So could be the same with Destro as well. So maybe you want to be considering using that. and Kilrog's Cunning you don't really want to use whatsoever. So I have a couple more things I want to talk about. I know this guy's been going on for ages and I apologize for that, but we just quickly go over the legendary powers. So we go into legendary powers. I'm going to give you guys like my top 3 that I would consider playing, and then maybe like I'll mention some others. So the top one right now, as I recall, is Cinders of the Azir Akir. I can't pronounce that at all, but you know what I mean. Conflagrate has 1 additional charge, so instead of being 2, it's now 3, and it recharge time is reduced by 3 seconds. So that's really cool. It's on a 10-second recharge right now, so it'd be on a 7-second, and you have an additional Conflagrate. And in my opinion, it is just really, really strong. And obviously, every time you use Conflagrate, you get backdraft as well, so you can therefore get your Chaos Bolts out quicker or your Incinerates. So that's like kind of like the go-to right now. I guess if you want big Chaos Bolts, then you can play Madness of the Azir Akir. The game doesn't like me, man. Why? Like, they're just naming this all weirdly, but right now, this one could be okay. Chaos Bolt increases the damage of your Chaos Bolt by 25% and reduces the cast time of Chaos Bolt by 20%. Obviously, that's really good because the more Chaos Bolts you get out, obviously, the more it's going to increase your damage in a sense, right? So if you use 1 Chaos Bolt, then the next Chaos Bolt, I'm pretty sure it's going to deal 25% more damage. And obviously, you're playing with Focus Chaos anyway as well. So your Chaos Bolt's going to do a lot of damage. So could work out very, very strong during burst phases and everything like that. So that could be used and experimented with. But in my opinion, I just think Cinders is just the best one to pick right now because you just get loads of instant damage and loads of backdraft. So you get like your spells out faster and it just works like a charm. But I could see a situation where you might want to consider using Madness, but don't forget in 9.1, Focus Chaos is getting removed, I think. So maybe you don't want to be going Madness right now. Another one, I guess, right, you could go with Demonic Synergy just for the 10% increased damage, but yeah, again, you have a pet out all the time if you don't play Grimoire of Sacrifice, so there's a chance your pet could get the buff, and obviously, as demo, that's beneficial because your pet does a lot of damage, and obviously, if you get the buff, you do a lot of damage, so it works out really good, but as the other specs, it's not too great in a sense, because if your pet gets the damage increase, then I don't think it's going to work out as good, so you want the increase in use, so maybe not, but Odir's Shout of the Ymira, I don't know. Enemies marked by your Havoc take 25% increased damage from your single target spells. Maybe if you pair that up with Duplicitous Havoc, then maybe it'll work out because you can transfer more damage during Havoc. But right now, so obviously this increases basically enemies marked by your Havoc take a 25% increased damage from your single target spell, so it's good. Don't get me wrong, it allows you to do more damage to 2 people at once, but in my personal opinion, Cinders is just the way to go right now. Sure, you could switch him up, you know, you're against like Rogue Mage, maybe Cepheus to come in handy because you reduce the income and crowd control effects on you. Might be good if you're an Orc too, just for extra crowd control like reduction. That'd be good, so extra CC reduction and increases your secondary stats as well. But just in general, man, like Pillars could be okay, like I was talking about earlier, just being able to use 2 gateways before the reduction comes up, and it allows you to knock people away if you pass through them while using that. But right now, I just think Cinders is the way to go. But I'm going to head on over and try to the target dummies and do my rotation. Really hope you enjoyed it so far. Sorry, I have been talking a lot, and I know, you know, some parts I kind of butchered in a sense. I've been like repeating myself, but at the end of the day, I still think I got a lot of information out to you guys. So I'm going to jump over to the target dummies, and I'll see you in a second. Alright guys, I'm at the target dummies right now, and I just want to quickly show you my rotation. So as a Destruction Warlock, it's actually quite simple in the sense that you basically want your Immolate up at all times on the target, and then you want to be using your Incinerate to try and get your Soul Shard fragments so you can get more Soul Shards, and then you want to be spending your Soul Shards on your Chaos Bolts. So it's basically a soul shard generator. So your incinerate's a soul shard generator in a sense, and so is your immolate, because your immolate has a chance to get soul shard fragments and stuff. And then before you chaos bolt, you always want to have conflagrate up just for the backdraft, and then you can use your chaos bolt. So obviously every person who's probably watching this video, well, not every person, but just in general, some people are going to be different covenants, so the way you work your covenant ability in is going to be different. You know, for Night Fae, you want to use it before burst, just so that you can deal more damage, really, just because you get the mastery increase, so it'll work really beneficial. But just in general, you can open up with immolate on both targets if there's two, and then you can start spamming your incinerates, just making sure you're getting your soul shards up right. Make sure your immolate doesn't fall though, so you reapply them when they're about to expire. Then all you need to do is, you know, now you would use your covenant ability if you're Night Fae, and then you would use your conflagrate. Then this is where you pop your Dark Soul, you pop your Trinket, you pop your Infernal, and then you pop your Chaos Bolt. And then, there you go, 18k. And then you refresh your immolate. So it's quite straightforward. Obviously, there's certain situations where you want to be using Havoc too. It also generates more soul shards, but the main concept, like the way things work as a destruction warlock, you just want to be building up your soul shards and spending them on Chaos Bolt. So again, immolate on both targets, incinerate until you get like say 4 or 4.5 soul shards. Then you like use your covenant ability or conflagrate. It doesn't really matter as such, I guess. So covenant ability, conflagrate, pop your Dark Soul and Trinket and your Infernal for the stun, and then you literally just spam Chaos Bolts. Really good. Obviously you can use Havoc, but this is more for CC, Havoc and then Coil to coil 2 targets. Or you can, if you want to get your soul shards up faster, you can obviously Havoc immediately. That's going to put 2 immolates up at one time, so it saves you having to like either tab target or click on the other person or whatever, depending on how you target the enemy. So you put another immolate up, and then you just use your you can use your conflagrate as well, and then burst them down with obviously your Chaos Bolt. But I'll show you that one more time, and then I will show some gameplay of me actually playing Destruction in some battlegrounds, and then obviously that concludes today's video. So I'll see you in a second. Alright guys, just to note, while we're waiting for my Infernal to come back up, I am using the Demonic Synergy Legendary just because I don't have a Destruction Legendary itself. So obviously this Legendary works for all 3 specializations, but I just don't have the Legendary I want for Destruction, which would be Cinders. So obviously your burst would kind of work differently in a sense because you have an extra charge of conflagrate, but also it doesn't matter too much when showing the rotation here. But I'll just go through it. So you can either open up, you can use Havoc to get immolate and conflagrate off immediately, and then you can start big bolting and burst. Or you can just save your Havoc for like CC setups and everything, double coil and that. So what I'm just going to do is show it how I did earlier. You can use your Cataclysm as well if there's multiple targets stacked on one another. But you can also use that to like bait people out of pillars and stuff like that. It depends how you want to use it, but immolate on both targets. Start using the Incinerate, getting up your soul shards. There we go. And then what you want to do is you can then use your conflagrate to get backdraft, and then you pop your covenant ability, or you can pop your covenant ability before using conflagrate. You pop Dark Soul and Trinket, then you also pop your Infernal, and then you go for the biggest Chaos Bolts ever. And there you go. Basically simple. Then you rinse and repeat, making sure that your immolate doesn't fall. Do the same thing over and over again. Big Chaos Bolts. There we go. If I obviously have the other legendary too, I get more conflagrates, so I get even more backdraft as well. So it just works out a lot better. But hopefully you've enjoyed the video so far. What I'm going to do is I'm quickly going to showcase some games of me playing this spec, so this build, in some battlegrounds for you guys, and then that will conclude today's video. So I really hope you enjoyed it so far. Sorry for like rambling a lot, and yeah, let's jump straight into it.
of the doorways open up and see what kind of lifeline will be waiting there for me. I need to bury all these fears and let them fade away. I'm not scared, I'm prepared to find myself again. I wanna fly over mountains, I wanna reach the end. I'll rise up from the ashes, I wanna burn again. I'll find my way through the bitterness I'm feeling. I won't rest, I won't give up, I'm still healing. I'm still healing. I won't give up, I'm still healing. I fight the pain that I once let kill my vibe. I fear the day that I lose the chance to fight. So I stand up tall, ready to face it all again. And I will not fall, I won't lose again. I wanna fly over mountains, I wanna reach the end. I'll rise up from the ashes, I won't burn again. I'll find my way through the bitterness I'm feeling. I won't rest, I won't give up, I'm still healing. I'm still healing. I'm still healing. I won't rest, I won't give up, I'm still healing. I won't give up, I'm still healing.
Alright guys, I really hope you enjoyed this Destruction Warlock PvP guide. At the start of the video, I basically explained that I haven't really played Destruction too much in Shadowlands so far, or I haven't played it at all, but I actually have played it. I just realised I have recorded videos on Destruction Warlock in the past. Like I did one, I think it was in the previous patch in 9.0.2. That's when I, recorded a video of Destruction Warlock in the battleground and everything. So I have played it. Part of me, for some reason, didn't think I had played Destruction Warlock too much, but I actually have. But just in general, though, man, I really hope you enjoyed this. It was a long guide, so definitely took me a while to obviously break down everything and go through everything. But obviously, Shadowlands is jam-packed, full of information, and just in general jam-packed with a lot of stuff to go over. So I really hope you enjoyed this detailed Destruction Warlock PvP guide. Obviously though, I've created two guides previous to this for Affliction, so one for Affliction and one for Demonology. So if you haven't already, go check them out if you want to obviously watch those videos. And just in general, I appreciate everybody who clicked on this video and obviously stuck around, or just in general, even if you watched 1 minute or 5 minutes of this, it really does mean a lot. Obviously I've got timestamps in the description and everything, just showcasing certain parts of this video. So if you want to skip to like the talents, then you can do. If you want to skip to like the rotation, just in general, it's going to help out this video quite a bit for having timestamps, because then you can just go to certain parts of the video you want to. But yeah, man, I really hope you enjoyed today's video. Thank you so much for obviously watching it, and if you obviously do want to support the channel and everything, then make sure to leave a like. Also leave a comment, let me know if you play Destruction Warlocks, and also make sure to subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to check out my social media links in the description down below. That'll take you to stuff like my Twitter, my Facebook gaming page, my Discord, and so much more. But thank you so much for the support, guys. It absolutely means a lot, and I really hope you enjoyed this guide today. And just in general, I really hope you enjoyed my previous guides too, if you've watched them. But thank you for watching, and yeah, guys, I've been Xrathis. I'll catch you in the next one. So, peace!